16.2 Sexual Reproduction. Don't forget to go back to the objectives so that you make sure that you studied the lesson correctly. Okay, so what's sexual reproduction? We agreed before that reproduction is making more of the same kind or of the same species, right? So sexual reproduction is the type of reproduction that involves the fusion of the two nuclei of two gametes. Just pause for a while. What is a gamete? A gamete is the sex cell. Like in males of humans, the sex cell is the sperm cell, and in females, it is the ovum or the egg cell. So when the nucleus of the sperm and the nucleus of the ovum, they fuse together, they start forming a zygote, which is the very, very little baby, just one cell. So a process involving the fusion of the nuclei of the two gametes to form a zygote and the production of offspring. Offspring, these are the kids or the next generation that are genetically different from each other and from the two parents. So here you see the offspring, they are genetically different. They are not exactly identical, not to each other and not to the parents, because this is sexual reproduction. Okay, so in sexual reproduction, the parent organism produces the sex cell, which is the gamete, that contains half the number of chromosomes. Why is that? Because if it has the full number of chromosomes, when it joins with the other sex cell, this will duplicate the number of chromosomes, and this will be abnormal. So in order to get new organisms from the same species with the same number of chromosomes, this means that the gamete cell should have half the number of chromosomes, so that when fertilization happens, which is the process of the fusion of the two nuclei, the zygote that is formed will contain the full number of chromosomes, the correct number of chromosomes. Again, I have a male and a female. Each one of them will produce a sex cell, and then the sex cell or the gamete cell will contain half the number of chromosomes. So when fertilization happens, which means the fusion of the nuclei, we will get a zygote that contains the correct number of chromosomes that will grow later into an embryo. Now, male gametes and female gametes. In animal cells, the male gamete is the sperm. It's smaller and it can move, smaller than the egg cell, and it can move to reach the egg cell. The egg cell or the ovum in the female, it is relatively large and it does not move at all. In plants or in plant cells, the male gamete is found inside the pollen grain. Here you go, these are the pollen grains. While the female gamete is found inside the ovule that's in the ovary of the plant or the flower. Now let's answer some questions together. Which statement applies to sexual reproduction? Offspring are genetically identical to the parent. Offspring are not produced from gametes. Offspring develop from a zygote. Offspring develop from one gamete. Which one is the correct answer? Of course, that offspring developed from a zygote. Which statement about sexual reproduction is correct? It is the process that involves the fusion of two nuclei of gamete cells. Okay, now paper 3. Plants can reproduce asexually or sexually. Table 7.1 compares asexual and sexual reproduction. Put a tick in the boxes to show the correct feature of sexual and asexual reproduction. Please make sure that when he says put a tick, you put only a tick, no crosses. Also make sure that you put the tick whenever it's needed only, because most of the mark schemes will have a regulation to reject any extra ticking, because this means that you're leaving the corrector the choice, and this should be the thing that you're doing. You should be sure of your answer. So please, when he says put a tick, you put only a tick, don't put a cross, and also please make sure that you do the right number of ticks. The number of marks is not necessarily an indicator of the number of ticks. Okay? involves gametes. Which type involves gametes? Of course, it is sexual reproduction, because in asexual reproduction, there are no gametes. It's only one parent. Makes more of the same kind of organism. This is the definition of reproduction generally. So this will apply to sexual and asexual reproduction. Produces genetically identical offspring. Which one? It is the asexual reproduction. Involves fertilization. This is only in sexual reproduction. Thank you, and I hope this video helps you study.